everyone, how you going? Welcome. Hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. Today is the 17th of March 2022, so they say. Welcome. I want to say hello to all my subscribers, non-subscribers, trolls, bots and lurkers about. Hi, g'day, welcome. Welcome if you're watching in the future, g'day. Right, this is about 1947, the year that changed everything. 70 Years On by Mika Freeman, December 19, 2017, from Freedom Article website. 1947 was a momentous year in the history of humanity, yet hardly anyone knows why. 70 years on, we take a look at the year's life-changing events. 1947 was the year of infamy in terms of the NWO agenda. 1947 was the time when profound events were taking place. The birth of the horrible US MI6 military intelligence complex, the probable continuation of the Nazi regime, and the likely ET visitation. Yeah, I doubt that. I think that's fake. As the year 2017 comes to the end, and we close at our 70-year anniversary of the year 1947, it's worth briefly looking back on the momentous year at some of the events that transpired then, which still have a profound effect on our world today. 1947, Operation Hijack. Just when you thought it was safe to go back into the water, no, I'm not referring to Jaws, but rather the US, UK, Australian military expedition led by Admiral Richard Byrd in January and February of 1947. He thought it would be safe to go down to Antarctica, but he was overpowered and beat a hasty retreat. Byrd led around 4,700 troops in an invasion of Antarctica, but his forces encountered heavy resistance to their Antarctic venture from flying saucers. The mission, that was meant to be many months long, endured abruptly after just 8 weeks. Some had speculated that Byrd ran into ETs. However, given all the information we now have about the Nazis, it's more likely that he ran into the Nazis themselves. Was Byrd stalking the Nazis? This is a local expert from Report, Hitler's Antarctic Base, The Myth and Reality, in a local Chilean newspaper, El Mercurio, on Wednesday, the 5th of March, 1945. Admiral Richard E. Byrd warned today that the United States should adopt measures of protection against the possibility of an invasion of a country by hostile planes coming from polar regions. The Admiral explained that he was not trying to scare anyone, but the cruel reality is that in case of a new war, the United States could be attacked by planes flying over one or both poles. This is what Byrd is said to have testified before Congress. In case of a new war, the US would be attacked by fighters that are able to fly from one pole to the other with incredible speed. Those interested in further reading may like to devolve into The Genesis of the New Space Age by John Leith. Operation Hijack in 1947. What did Admiral Byrd encounter? Nazis, ET, or both? The above images show the official German Antarctic expedition of 1938 to 1939. I'll leave the links in the description for you. In 1947, the Roswell incident. The theme of flying saucers, UFOs, and anti-gravity craft, and whether they were terrestrial, German, or extraterrestrial origin, was brought up once again in 1947 with the infamous Roswell incident or Roswell crash. 7th of July 1947, at least one, but perhaps 2 or 3 UFOs reportedly crashed in the small town of Roswell, New Mexico, USA. The military put out a bogus cover story of a crashed weather balloon. In 1978, UFO expert Stanton Friedman interviewed Major Jesse Marcel, who was involved with the original recovery of the debris. Marcel stated that the military had covered up the recovery of the alien spacecraft as well as some alien life forms. Retired military officer Chuck Wade painstakingly supplied compelling evidence of multiple crashed UFOs in the New Mexico area. He believed that there was not just one UFO on Roswell crash, but multiple craft and multiple crash sites. Philip Corso Jr. was a person very close to the situation as it was unfolding in 1947 and afterwards. He knew about the reality of advanced extraterrestrial technology. After Roswell incident, Corso was put in charge of figuring out what to do. He claims that the Nazi scientists via CIA Project Paperclip worked for him, that the Majestic 12, see below, reported to him, and that he reported to then President Eisenhower, and then later President Reagan often consulted him. He also claims that humans cannot go into space biologically, and that NASA knows this, that he was contacted by at least 2 ET groups through telepathy, that the Cold War was mainly a war of the UFOs with Russia-US aligned against some groups of ETs, that Roswell UFO cover-up is a time travel cover-up, that there would be a time capsule opened in Roswell in 2047. Of course, there is much speculation and theorizing about what really happened on Roswell on that fateful day. Some, such as Corso, believe the most important piece of the puzzle was the military trying to cover up time travel, and even that the pilots and passengers of those crafts were not necessarily grey ETs, but future humans. Another theory is described in an account of Matilda O'Donnell as McElroy, e.g., as found in the book Alien Interview by Lawrence Spencer, a female army officer, nurse, who was purportedly brought in to communicate with the pilots of the crashed craft. She reveals her conversation with an alien which called itself Ari, who was asexual and looked like a typical grey alien and operated by telepathy. The body was not exactly biological or mechanical, and it seemed that the spacecraft in the body was connected directly to it through some kind of electrical nervous system that controlled with its thoughts. The 1947 Roswell incident. Did the crashed UFOs have grey aliens as their occupants? The above image is an actual photo from John Edmonds. 1947, Truman signs National Security Act. One way or another, Operation High Jump and the Roswell incident must have had huge psychological impact upon Truman and the U.S. ruling cabal, because later that year, Truman signed legislation that gave birth to what would become domestic and international monster, the U.S. MIC Military Intelligence Complex. The National Security Act took effect on September 18, 1947, and has recognized that U.S. defense and intelligence agencies. The Act and its subsequent amendments, restructure of the U.S. intelligence community, reorganized the Department of Defense, established the NCSC, the National Security Council, established the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, split the Department of War into the Department of Army and the Department of Air Force. The American Air Force used to be part of the Army. Established the NME, National Military Establishment, established the position of the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, who is the director of the entire intelligence community and principal advisor to the President. It was later amended in 1949 to further consolidate and centralize control of the military by making the Secretaries of the Army, Navy, Air Force subordinate to the U.S. to the Secretary of Defense in the chain of command, and renaming the NME as the Department of Defense. 1947, the year that the National Security Act and the CIA, what was once a servant, had become a vicious monster. In 1947, the formation of the CIA, the most devastating and destructive intelligence agency in the world history. As stated above, with the signing of the National Security Act, the CIA came into being on the 18th of September 1947, arising out of the ashes of a forerunner of the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services. The OSS was run by Wild Bill Donovan, was a wartime intelligence agency during the World War II, which engaged in espionage, propaganda, subversion, and post-war planning. It is difficult to aptly summarize just how nefarious, morally bankrupt, wicked, and murderous the CIA has been since 1947 inception. It quickly became an out-of-control agency, so much that by the time Kennedy assumed office at the start of 1961, Eisenhower was already warning him that he better be careful of both CIA and the entire MI6. JFK was the first person to seriously challenge the agency, and it's no coincidence that he ended up dead just a few years later. The CIA is a company responsible for countless assassinations and instances of gun and drug running. Ex-CIA agents such as Victor Marchetti, who have worked there, talked about the CIA as a cult of intelligence, such as former CIA Chief William Colby, who said, "They clicked together, forming a sealed fraternity. They developed a rather skewed view of the world. They looked down on the life of the rest of the citizenry, an inbred, distorted, elitist view of intelligence that held itself to be beyond the restraints of the Constitution. The CIA spies relentlessly and invasively on all Americans and beyond. WikiLeaks published the Vault 7 CIA documents, the biggest leak in CIA history, which were a shocking and damning collection proving the CIA hacks all the US electronic devices, phones, computers, smart TVs, to listen to conversations anywhere. Vault 7 also proved the CIA hacks vehicles remotely to control them in order to carry out undetectable assassinations. The CIA's primary activities, aside from doing its job it's supposed to be doing, i.e. gathering foreign intelligence to help defend the US, can be boiled down to these 5 things. 1. Arms and drug running. 2. Mind control. 3. Installation, assassination. 4. Subversion, propaganda. 5. Terrorist creating, arming, funding and training. Let's take a brief look at each of these. Arms and drug runnings. Arms and drugs have been the mainstay of the CIA since its 1947 inception. The White House has always condoned the operations since it allowed the CIA to raise funds off the book for its extracurricular and extrajudicial activities, i.e. assassination, subversion, foreign meddling, etc. Whether it's cocaine from South America or heroin from the poppy fields of Afghanistan and the Golden Triangle, Vietnam and other areas of Southeast Asia, the CIA are the master drug runners. Former narcotics investigator Mike Ruppert was forced out of the LAPD in 1977 when he exposed evidence of drug trafficking by the CIA. Many ex-CIA agents have blown the whistle on CIA drug running. For instance, Chip Tatum, who worked with black operations, was involved in drug smuggling trade between US and Central American countries. He personally flew a plane with cargo, which he later discovered turned out to be cocaine. Tatum was threatened not to speak out, but despite that he exposed the lurid details of the Mira Arkansas cocaine smuggling ring, Bill Clinton's involvement, and how George H.W. Bush had Barry Seal and Manuel Noriega assassinated. Los Angeles was chosen as the distribution point for flooding the American streets with crack cocaine. The early forerunner of the CIA, the OSS, began to investigate the use of the mind-altering substances like mescaline, sopamine, and marijuana, and then famously moved into experimenting with psyllium from magic mushrooms, and lyseric and I can't say them, sorry, LSD. The CIA was also behind the introduction of LSD to the American public in the 1960s, partly as a giant experiment, partly as an offshoot of its MK Ultra mind control programs, see below, and partly to weaken the population. CIA arms running or gun running has also been a consistent theme through the agency's history, including the Iran-Contra affair or even Benghazi in 2012, when the CIA was using an American diplomat compound in Libya to run guns to moderate Syrian rebels trying to destabilize the legality of elected government Bashar al-Assad. Mind control. The CIA pioneered invasive mind control in the 1940s. It absorbed Nazi war criminals into its structure via Operation Paperclip. It then condoned operations such as Project Bluebird and Project Artichoke. Artichoke became Project MK Ultra on the 13th of April 1953. MK stood for mind control, using the German word control in defense of the Nazi scientists at the CIA who helped develop the program. CIA agent Richard Helms chose Dr. Sidney Goblet to run the TSS technical service staff to develop what becomes MK Ultra with truth serum and hypnotic techniques. Some of the techniques involve trauma to make the victims dissociate, split off into multiple personalities, alters. The CIA killed biological warfare scientist Frank Olson using drugs and chemicals to produce altered and vulnerable states in subjects who they could mind control for various purposes. Installation and assassinations. JFK, the most famous example of a CIA assassination operation. The CIA has been synonymous with installation of foreign puppet regimes in the assassinations, and the list is far too long to spell out, but it includes Iran, 1953, Guatemala, 1954, Vietnam, 1954-58, Hungary, 1956, Laos, 1957 to 1973, Haiti 1959, Cuba 1961, Ecuador 1963, Brazil 1964, Indonesia 1965, Greece 1967, Bolivia 1968, Uruguay 1969, Cambodia 1970, Chile 1973, Australia 1975, Afghanistan 1979, El Salvador 1980, Nicaragua 1981, and Panama 1980. And more up to the modern examples of Libya in 2011, Syria in 2011, and Ukraine in 2014. Additionally, in the late 1950s, President Eisenhower and VP Nixon created a super-secret team of assassins composed of around 40 crack CIA agents. Operation 40, as it would come to be known behind many of its most famous high-profile assassinations of the last 6 decades, include JFK, MLK, RFK, John Lennon, Che Guevara, and Bob Marley, and more. The assassination template is still used today, carried out against innocent citizens and peacemakers. The CIA had a hand in the infamous Operation Geraldo, the US NATO stay-behind military force in Europe, which is there to allegedly stop the spread of communism. Horrific false flag attacks were carried out by Glado operatives who would bomb places such as train stations and make it look like far-left communists were the villains. William Blum describes the CIA murderous activities as an American Holocaust. This scenario has been repeated so many times that the CIA actually teaches it in a special school, the notorious School of the Americas. It opened in Panama, but later moved to Fort Benning in Georgia. Critics have nicknamed the School of Dictators and the School of the Assassins. Here, the CIA trains Latin American military officers how to conduct coups, including the use of interrogation, torture, and murder. The Association for Responsible Dissident estimates that by 1987, 6 million people had died as a result of CIA covert operations. The former State Department official, William Blum, correctly calls this as American Holocaust. Subversion, propaganda number 4. The CIA has become a master at subversion and propaganda, both within and outside the USA. It took over the media in the 1960s and the 1970s with Operation Mockingbird, a now declassified project whereby the CIA infiltrated the mainstream media and had its pieces inserted into television, newspapers, TV journals, everywhere as news, when they were nothing more than lies and propaganda. The late German journalist UFO Jolke, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, admitted that many European journalists were on the CIA payroll and have it been ever since the CIA rolled out its first European propaganda station, Radio Free Europe, in 1949. Ex-CIA case officer Philip Egg worked in the CIA during the 1950s and finally left in 1968. He knew firsthand that the CIA's subversive activities and terrorism in Central and South America. He became a whistleblower and author of several books exposing the agency. When the US revoked his passport in 1979, he first lived in Grenada in 1980 until Bishop was overthrown by the US. Then Nicaragua until 1990, and the Sandinists were overthrown by the US, then Germany and Cuba. The CIA created the CCF, Congress for Cultural Freedom, in the 1950s to counter Soviet influence. The CCF was not a hidden weapon in the US Cold War arsenal. Whether they liked it or not, whether they knew it or not, there were few scientists, writers, and historians in both Europe and America whose names were not in some way linked to this covert enterprise. The US establishment operated a sophisticated spying program in the name of freedom of expression. All those things, including music and art, that you thought were just spontaneous were actually part of the hidden agenda. 5. Terrorists creating, arming, funding, training. Oh, look how they've got the face. Oh, goodness, with the words. Unreal. The CIA has long gotten mercenaries to do its dirty work. For its fuller history of the long and close relationships between the CIA and Islamic terrorism, see the article Radical Islamic Terrorists, the best bad guys money can buy. Whether they're called the Mujahideen, Al-Qaeda, the FSA, Free Syrian Army, or ISIS, the CIA had created them, armed them, funded them, and trained them. The CIA trained Osama in the late 80s, and the US government allowed for the fundamentalist Islamic network to develop in America prior to 2001. Both bin and al were the convenient boogeyman after the false flag attack on 9/11. Here is a list of the top 10 connections between the US and ISIS. Even after all of this doesn't fully outline the extent of the CIA crimes, for it has also been involved in various NWO agendas such as geoengineering. Evergreen is a CIA front company used to disseminate chemtrails. 1947, the formation of MJ-12. On what some researchers claim was September 24, 1947, although there is a lack of clarity over the exact date, after a hugely significant event happened. Truman created a special government group that had never before existed, which was deliberately set up to be above and beyond the law, known as the Majestic 12 or MJ-12. It was an ultra-secretive group that was entrusted with guarding the knowledge of the reality of the ET presence of Earth. It was so undercover that Congress didn't even know of its existence, let alone empowered to be subject to oversight and accountability. UFO researchers Robert Bob Wood and his son Ryan Wood have put together the website Majestic Documents, which contains a collection of alleged MJ-12 documents over the decades. They rate each one on their authenticity scale. On one such MJ-12 document, Truman wrote to the then Secretary of Defense, Forrestal, "You are hereby authorized to proceed with all due speed and caution upon your undertaking. Hereafter this matter shall be referred to only as Operation Majestic 12, and any future considerations relative to the ultimate disposition of the matter should rest solely with the office of the President following appropriate discussions with yourself, Dr. Bush, or the Director of Central Intelligence." MJ-12 certainly, at one point, could have been considered to be the most powerful organization on Earth. In a sense that they were tasked with handling the alien affair, an issue of life-changing importance that no one else was allowed to know. It is unknown exactly in what form Majestic 12 exists today. According to testimony of Dan Birch, the MJ-12 are working for the Committee of the Majority, a Freemasonic organization which is coordinating an alien contact with Earth to further the agenda of the New World Order. 1947, the year of infamy. 1947 was truly an incredible year, with so many incidents happening and groups being created that it changed the course of future of humanity. 70 years later, we are still shaped by what went on that fateful year. We are on just the verge of discovering collectively the shocking reality of the breakaway civilization, a secret space program, see William Tompkins and other whistleblowers for more details, that has been carried out behind our backs without resources. The difference is now that the truth is leaked out, and there is a critical mass of people prepared to investigate these occurrences and confront the implications. MJ-12 was set up in an era where the authorities were terrified of sharing the truth in the belief that it would cause social upheaval and chaos. Now things have changed. If our so-called rulers cannot reveal the truth to us, we will bypass them and find it out anyway, and continue the course of rendering them irrelevant. So there you go. I'm going to share I'm going to click on the links and share some other ones, but I'll just leave it with this one. I'm not sure if I'll do a live stream and pull them all together. So I'll just end this one here and make another one. So wherever you are in the world, thanks for watching. The like, share, subscribe if you like. If not, it's okay too. Thanks for watching. Raise your vibrations. Much love. Bye now.